Hello and welcome to MMA Crips Fighting Talk. On today's show, we'll be going 5 rounds of action from last night's UFC on Fox Browne vs Werdum event, featuring Khabib Nurmagomedov vs Rafael dos Anjos, Donald Cowboy Cerrone vs Edson Barboza, Miesha Tate vs Liz Carmouche, Fabricio Werdum vs Travis Browne, and finally, our prediction contest 1-2-5. Okay, joining me on today's show, as always, Mr. Brian Hunt and Greg Marshall. Say hello to our listeners, guys.
Hello.
And hello from me too.
Okay, let's start with round 1. And Khabib Nurmagomedov versus Rafael dos Anjos. This lightweight tilt served as the headliner for last night's prelim card. Khabib did go on to take a unanimous decision victory over Rafael dos Anjos to take his record to 22 wins and 0 losses. This was a stiff test for Khabib, of course. Rafael's no easy opponent for anybody. First off, Greg, gives your thoughts on Khabib's performance last night, please.
As he has been in every fight so far, he just looked excellent everywhere. Dos Anjos has been great recently, on a 5-fight win streak himself, I believe, and he was never in this fight. From start to finish, Khabib just dominated him everywhere, and I can't see anybody really beating Khabib now until he gets a title shot.
You think he's ready for that?
I think he probably is ready now, but he'll probably need one more fight because of where the title is with the injury to Pettis and the tough season coming up. So he will probably need one more fight, but I think he's ready now.
Well, I was looking towards Edson Barboza versus Khabib, to be honest with you. I thought if they both won last night, obviously Edson fucking lost. We'll get to that in the next round. But what do you make of this guy then, Brian? Where do you think he's going to go? What do you think's next for him?
I like the Grant fight. I like the Bindo fight. I'll even throw a Nate Diaz fight in there if Nate Diaz ever wants to fight again. I mean, you got a few guys. You got a Michael Johnson. Didn't look great in his last fight, but he's been up and coming. He's got to fight somebody because the lightweight division is just so tied up, and it's probably tied up for the next year. It's unfortunate when a guy gets hurt, and then he gets hurt and it's followed up with a damn tough, that the belt's going to be kind of non-defended for probably close to 2 years. I mean, it's just, oh man, 2 years is a bit much, but it's going to be a year and a half, I think. And I don't know. I hate title fights being tied up on tough. And if they would have started this a long time ago while Pettis was healing, that'd be one thing. But we'll see. He's at the top. He's near the top, but the top's not obtainable. So he's kind of stuck. And any fight you list, it's going to be, well, that guy's below him. It's a non-win fight. They're all going to be the type of fights for him. I mean, you got Bindo, who I think is scheduled to fight, and Grant, who hasn't fought forever because of, I think, concussions. So besides those two, everybody else is going to be below him. But we shall see.
This was a decision victory. Obviously, Rafael's, he's a tough veteran. Now, to dominate this guy around the cage, Rafael's game is to dominate guys. He likes to take guys down, ground and pound them, use his jiu-jitsu, control the fight. Now, it sounds like Khabib actually dominated Rafael in his own game here. But do you think he lacked a bit of killer instinct last night, Brian?
No, I don't know. The wrestlers, I don't think so. He didn't lay and pray. It wasn't one of those. He threw good shots. Rafael's no bum. So no, I wasn't. I didn't feel like I was watching Clay Guida out there, and that's where I get offended. So, but my dark horse fight is maybe a Alvarez if Alvarez gets freed up from his contract. So that's maybe the third potential fight. That'd be a good first Alvarez fight for signing with the UFC, but we shall see again.
I think that would ruin Eddie Alvarez, to be honest. I think this guy could literally ruin pretty much anybody. Like, he's a dangerous opponent. This guy really is world class in the making, and each time he's just proven himself again and again and again. And it brings me on to my next question. I'll throw this one to you, Greg. Why was this fight on the undercard, do you think? Because I respect Brad Tavares and I respect Yoel Romero, both good fighters in their own rights, but are they really as good as Khabib?
Well, realistically, it shouldn't have been on the undercard. These two guys were arguably fighting to be next in line at lightweight, and you've got Cerrone against Barboza in a fight that was probably just to find a position in the division. But it's been pretty obvious for a while now that the undercard has a headliner, and this was the headliner, and you don't get many better headliners than that. It made more sense, I suppose, to have this as a headline fight on the undercard than a fight opener on the main card, is what I think they're kind of looking at these days.
I don't get all this headliner prelim stuff, to be honest with you. For the pay-per-view, I get it because you've got to sell the pay-per-view. But for the Fox card, I just think it should have been pushed to the main card. Because to me, the higher up the card means the more important the fight. And if it was a big fight put in front of it, I would have been fine. But Miesha Tate, Liz Carmouche, I know they've got to build the women's division up, but I just feel like that wasn't the fight to put in front of it. And I certainly don't believe the Yoel Romero and Brad Tavares was the fight to put in front of it. So I do take your point, but I'll counter that with it should have been a pay-per-view. Then it would have made sense. But because it wasn't and it was a Fox card, it just made no sense in headlining a prelim, to be honest with you. Because it's not going to get anybody excited to watch the Fox cards, you know. It's going to be like, well, I'm watching the Fox card anyway because it's free.
On that, though, it's not about building in excitement. It's more about making sure the ratings on Fox Sports 1 are high.
Absolutely. That's what I was going to say.
That's what the UFC are looking at now. It's not a case of building excitement anymore towards a card. It's about peaking viewing at each possible point. So it's not necessarily, this isn't for the UFC. This is to make sure that they keep a good relationship with Fox and that viewing figures are always at a good level.
Okay, let's move over to round 2. Donald Cerrone versus Edson Barboza. Now, whoa, this was an entertaining lightweight fight. I was actually in the middle last night, Greg, of, I actually posted it. I said, Donald Cowboy Cerrone is not a top 5 opponent, and he's certainly not in the class of Edson Barboza. It pretty much looked like that in the actual fight, but as soon as I posted that, I thought, please don't win now because you just make me look like a dick. What did he go and do? Like 10 seconds later, Donald Cerrone knocks him down, chokes him out, and voila, I look like a cock. First off, give us your thoughts on the fight last night between Donald Cerrone and Edson Barboza, please, Greg.
Much the same as you. Your first few minutes, you're thinking Cerrone's going to get absolutely smashed here. Barboza seemed to have him worked out in every single way. And then bang, a jab, knocks him down. And to be fair to Cerrone, I was really impressed with the way he finished him as well. He didn't just jump on top and try and ground and pound him out of that. He just grabbed his back and sunk in the choke and finished him. Really impressive, really, really aware. A lot of fighters would just go for the straightforward bang, bang, bang. He was smart, took the back and finished him well.
Well, he was quick. He locked that in even before he got to the mat. Yep. That was like he took his rear naked choke. He had it locked in while he was falling back with him, and that was it. There was pretty much no escape. I was really impressed with the quickness because he needed speed to finish that, and that's what he did. But for me, there seems to be a problem with Edson Barboza because while this guy is so devastating and he's just so vicious, he keeps getting tagged. Now, Jamie Varner knocked him out. He was winning the Jamie Varner fight. All of a sudden, Jamie Varner knocks him out. No shame in that. But again, Danny Castillo, round 1, fucking smashes him, takes him down, ground and pounds him. Obviously, he comes back and wins the fight. Now, Donald Cerrone, he's controlling the fight, then bang, again, straight down the pipe. Is there something wrong with Edson Barboza? Is there something he's doing wrong that he just keeps getting tagged and hurt for at least one round of the fight, and now it's cost him 2 times?
Maybe. I think it's partly due to the competition he's facing now. like the guys he was facing early on, no disrespect to any of them, but Njokuani, Ross Pearson, Terry Etam, they're not on the same level as a Donald Cerrone or a Danny Castillo or that. And since the Varner loss, he beat Lucas Martins and Rafael Oliveira. Again, no disrespect to them, but they're not a Donald Cerrone. When he faces a different level of competition, I think he is at risk of getting caught. But partly because he's so aggressive. Most guys, when they're facing these kind of guys, aren't anywhere near as aggressive as Barboza is. And he doesn't seem to know any other way to fight than just be aggressive.
I don't know what you're talking about, Greg. Now, I'm looking early on in his career. Look at this. Lee King, he beat him twice in a row.
Lee King, do you think he's wet?
He's what, wet?
Well, if he's leaking.
Oh God! Oh God!
That's good, is it not?
Oh man!
That is good.
Oh,
Greg, that was like one of those cracker jokes.
That was really quick.
God, this show just took a whole new level.
Greg's been opening up the Christmas crackers for that one.
Leaking.
Well, he actually won the Renaissance MMA Lightweight Championship, and he defended it against Lee King with that. And then, geez, he beat Nabi Barakat after that by knockout and Jose Figueroa. So, he was facing stiff competition early on. But you are right. He started off, he sort of jumped into the UFC quite early, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
He didn't have many fights. Obviously, he was impressive, finishing everybody. He's jumped in. He's beat some decent names. He just got a split decision against Ross Pearson. Obviously, the Terry Etam was the one what really probably, catapulted him into the limelight. He still looked good. He went on a 3-fight win streak. For me, he has the hallmarks of a champion, to be honest with you. I feel like there's something missing. He just seems to be getting hurt in these fights. Maybe he just needs to tone it down a little bit. Maybe a coach like maybe Greg Jackson or something could just come in and, steady him a little bit, because he seems to just get, over aggressive sometimes, and I think that's costing him. And you mentioned against, high level fighters like Donald Cerrone, he just needs one chance to turn the fight around. So maybe he just needs to be a bit more. I'm not into all this tactical game plan sort of fighting, but maybe it'll benefit his game if he just added maybe 25% to it, instead of just all out, just fucking aggression, Okay, let's bring you in on this, Brian. And what did you make of the bout between Donald Cerrone and Edson Barboza last night?
Well, Cerrone was looking like he was getting really outclassed. It was kind of an ugly fight for him. He looked slow. He looked just kind of reminded me of the Nate Diaz, and then he threw that big jab. Oh wait, okay, threw a jab. It wasn't like he caught him. It wasn't a big punch. It wasn't. Yeah, it's a 4-ounce glove, but it was still just a fucking jab, and he dropped the guy. So Cerrone's not the biggest power striker. He's a good striker in numbers type of thing, great kicks, but he still dropped him with the jab. I mean, so Barboza's kind of reminding me of Arlovsky back in the day, when Arlovsky could put together 3 minutes of great tactical striking, and then he gets dropped. And it's sad to see. I mean, it didn't get caught by a big punch. I think Jamie Varner hit him with a big shot and dropped him. This was just a jab. It was weird. It was really weird. It didn't look like it was a shot that should have dropped him, and it did. And props to Cerrone for just finishing it. He got the back, tied everything in, and bam, it was over. But it leaves a lot of question marks for me for both fighters. Is Barboza going to be a top 5 guy? He has the striking. He has some of the greatest kicks, fast leg kicks, inside and out. But you don't lose a fight to a jab. I mean, you can lose a fight to 100 jabs if somebody's throwing a good jab out there, but it's still a freaking jab. And so that part is disappointing. And Cerrone's just a question mark for me. I never, if he ever became a full-time professional fighter, I think he could be champ, but I just don't know about the kid.
Do you think it's time they put him in against Khabib? Because before Khabib was matched up with Rafael dos Anjos, there was a lot of talk of everybody ducking Khabib in a way. Nobody wanted to fight this guy. And the only person to really step up was Donald Cerrone. Now, does this make sense now?
Cerrone would be like fourth on my list for Khabib, but I mean, you got Grant if he's healthy. Benson's got a fight. It's probably June. So Nate Diaz I put above Cerrone. And then if none of those guys are available for Khabib or Eddie Alvarez doesn't sign with the UFC, then I go Cerrone. But it's a no-win fight for Khabib, but he needs a fight. So I think I'd be okay with that. It just he's just in a weird place, and I think he fucking gets mauled by Khabib. So, but who knows?
Okay, let's move over to round 3. Miesha Tate versus Liz Carmouche. Now, Brian, I understand that you really enjoyed this fight for certain reasons, so I'll start with you. What did you make of the fight between Miesha Tate and Liz Carmouche last night?
Round 1 had nice cleavage, and that's all. I was like just memorized by Miesha's cleavage in round 1 because nothing else got me excited in the fight. And that round, and at the end of round 2, Miesha started to turn up a little bit, and in round 3, Miesha looked awesome. And I noticed in round 3, I saw Miesha as a fighter, not somebody with impressive breast. And but round 1, it was all about her tits, and I was like, I like her tits. And I don't know if that's not well. I'm not respecting the fighter. Well, it was an ugly fight. I mean, if you're gonna put tits in front of me over a boring fight, I'm gonna watch the tits. I'm sorry, I am. I'm still a guy.
You'd watch them anyway, Brian.
I'm still a guy, so I was more interested in her tits. But round 3, didn't give a shit about her tits. It was a good scrap in round 3, and I was impressed. She did really good in the third round, and I enjoyed her as a fighter more than I enjoyed her tits. So, God, I sound like a fucking caveman, but I hate that. I'm like, ooh, women shouldn't be fighting. No, they should be fighting well. And the first round really reminded me of why I wasn't a fan of women's MMA for a long time. It wasn't a quality scrap. And then I don't know if it was halfway through round 2. I don't remember the details, but I remembered I quit noticing her boobs and started noticing the action. So it obviously became a better fight for me.
The same for me, Brian. It was a crap fight. Let's be honest. It was shit. That's what I'm saying about the undercard fight. What, a good scrap like that being on the undercard when you get a crap fight like that. But I understand they have to, it's 2 former number 1 contenders for the title. But it was a crap fight, and the only time I was excited is when Miesha Tate, about a minute or 2 into round 3, took her down, and she really laid it on her. Like, really impressive. Nice bit of ground and pound, side control, then took her back. To me, I was posting on the crypt last night. We had the in-play thread on the crypt last night. I was posting in there, and I was like, Miesha needs to take her time now. Just, her job was on the line last night. I don't care what Dana says. Her job was on the line. Now, she was going for submissions, which was really impressing me, because if she got reversed and Liz Carmouche just gives some nasty ground and pound, you just never know with these judges. If you can bust somebody up in a minute, you can turn a fight round in 1 minute. If you land a good elbow, you cut somebody and you start smashing into them. Miesha Tate being on her back for 2 minutes or in side control, landing the odd bit of shitty ground and pound, that's going to easily get outweighed. So I was very impressed with Miesha for taking the risk and taking the chances. But round 1, it was really weird because her grappling was so poor in round 1, like piss poor grappling. Round 2, I don't know what the fuck was going in round 2. It's like a bit of a tussle, but Carmouche just looked to have no heart. I don't know what the fuck happened to Carmouche. Like she was there to fight, then she wasn't. And slowly Miesha just sort of like came back into it a little bit. Pathetic shots. Miesha tries doing all this Muay Thai. She gets you in the clinch, she tries throwing these elbows, but she can never land them. She tries throwing knees that never land. She's got the worst Muay Thai in the fucking world. She used to complain and criticise to Ronda Rousey that she can't throw a punch, she can't strike. Ronda Rousey is probably a better striker than Miesha Tate is right now. I always like Miesha Tate's submissions. She's not too bad off her back, but she was okay on top. So for me, the story of this, Brian, pretty much the same as you. Dull round 1. Well, it was okay because Carmouche was making it okay. Round 2, very dull. I can't remember what went on. It was that boring. Round 3, definitely impressed with Miesha. Just taking the chances. Really exciting. This is a big win for her. So that's all I can say, and I'm impressed that she took the chances to get it too. What did you make of the fight last night, Greg, between Miesha Tate and Liz Carmouche?
Hard to disagree with you guys, to be honest. The first 2 rounds were pretty damn awful.
So you like your tits too, huh?
Doesn't every man? You wouldn't be a man if you didn't. Let's be honest. But the first round, Carmouche did everything right in the first round, but just didn't really push forward to try and win the fight, from what I've seen. And Miesha had nothing for her. When she was on her back, she just had nothing at all. Didn't really offer anything. And her, like Daly said, her striking's pretty damn awful. Second round, boring start. Miesha started to get a bit of control, and I think that's where the third round changed for her, because I think she realised that she did have an advantage, and she suddenly just poured it on. Third round, she won easily. There was a lot of talk that she lost the fight, that she should have lost the first 2 rounds, and she only won the third round. I thought she won the second round, simply because she did more, which was not very much, but she did more. Just because Carmouche was on top for a good period of the round didn't mean she won the round. I think there must have been pressure on Miesha. If she'd lost that fight, she went 0-3 in the UFC. I don't think she would have lost her job. I don't think that was a possibility. But it must have put pressure on her going into that fight, knowing that she could have a record of 0-3. Nobody wants to start a run in the UFC with no wins from 3 fights. So I've no doubt that had some pressure on her. But you'd have thought that would have had her come out in the first round really flying, but it didn't.
Okay, let's move on to round 4 and the main event for last night's event. It was Travis Browne versus Fabricio Werdum. Now, going into the event last night, I was feeling like I lost respect for Fabricio's desire to stand up and trade with fighters. It mainly started with the Overeem loss back in Strikeforce. He's laying on his back, he's waving Overeem in. Now, Fabricio, for me, before this fight, he always come in and struck with the lesser strikers. When it came to the guys who could strike back with him or pose the real threat, he'd always cower and jump to his back. Now, I don't mind people going for the takedown and working to your strengths, but Joe Rogan bigging him up Fabricio stand up so impressive now. He's so much better. He's so much more aggressive. Yeah, against fighters who don't bring it back to him. But last night, that all changed. Literally, when in that fight, Travis Browne, he started off where he was more aggressive. Fabricio was backing off. All of a sudden, these two guys just get into a transition on the ground. They tie up, and suddenly Travis Browne realizes where he is, and he's like, shit, I'm in the wrong place here. So all of a sudden, Werdum gets on top of him. Werdum's working away. Browne gets back to his feet. But this is where the fight changed for me, because Werdum just turned instantly aggressive. And as the fight went on, it was like he played mind games with Browne. Browne was always this aggressive striker coming. He was fearless, just went full bore. He took Alistair Overeem shots, through the front kick up around his chin, knocked him out. He was just so vicious. Last night, it was like Werdum mocked him. Every time he threw a fucking capoeira roundhouse kick or something, he just laughed at him and said, is that all you got? And he was playing with Travis Browne in a way. And he just turned more aggressive. You mentioned beforehand, Greg, that before we did this recording, you mentioned that he broke Travis Browne's rib with these body shots. He was throwing fucking shin to rib. He was just a savage last night, so aggressive. It was his will to take a shot and to give a shot. And when he did get it, he didn't cower like he used to. He didn't open his legs and try and wave you into his guard. He actually struck back and mocked you for it. And you don't mock a guy like Travis Browne very often. So for me, he showed a lot of heart last night, and something that really cements his place as number 1 contender. Greg, give us your thoughts on Fabricio Werdum's performance last night, first and foremost.
Well, a bit unlike yourself, I actually had seen massive improvement in Werdum's striking coming into the fight.
Yeah.
You guys obviously know I picked Werdum to win the fight as soon as the fight was announced. I fancied Werdum right for the off that he would win this fight. When he came into the UFC, he fought Roy Nelson, and Nelson was just picked apart through that whole fight. Werdum's boxing was brilliant in that fight. And again, the Big Nog fight, much the same. You'd expect Big Nog to have the striking advantage against him, but I thought Werdum just outboxed him in that fight as well until he finished him with a submission. Obviously, yesterday, again, it was clear Werdum's strikings came on a huge amount again. And he just completely dominated Browne. Browne obviously looked like he gassed quite early on, midway through the first round. Whether that was to do with the broken rib or not, I'm not sure. But either way, Werdum just made him pay throughout the whole fight. Yeah, he maybe probably could have pushed harder to finish the fight in the fourth and the fifth. But I can kind of understand why he wouldn't, because the only way Browne could win at that point was by Werdum being reckless. And he was 3 rounds up easily. It would have been a bit silly of him to be too reckless and take the chance of being caught by a lucky punch by what it would have been at that point.
Well, you mentioned about, like, you know, his improved boxing. I'm talking more about his heart and desire to actually stand and trade and get hit. Like, he didn't mind taking a punch last night. Now, after JDS knocked him out back in 2008, he literally just sort of reverted back to his jiu-jitsu. You know, he didn't want to take shots like he used to. Now, before that, he was knocking guys out. You know, he was standing and trading. You look at the Andrei Arlovski fight back in Manchester. He was banging away with him for 3 rounds. You know, he didn't mind getting punched in that fight. He was trading with Brandon Vera. He took him down, obviously, and got some ground and pound off. But he didn't mind standing and trading with the heavy-handed fighters, but he sort of carried away after JDS knocked him out. I don't know if he carried away. Maybe he just tried fighting smart. You know, he got cut by the UFC, which was just ridiculous considering, you know, obviously JDS wasn't a name back then. But for me, he just seemed to revert back to his jiu-jitsu a little bit. And maybe I'm putting too much stock in the Overeem loss, but obviously you mentioned he picked Roy Nelson apart from the outside. He had a massive reach advantage, landing the knees, and obviously Roy was fading throughout that fight. It just gets so much easier after that to, you know, pick a guy apart. But it was just the way it's like Travis Browne in the later rounds last night. You could see, obviously in round 5, Travis Browne did come back, which I'll ask you about that in a minute, actually, Greg. Like, when a fighter just fades away in a fight like that, you just know he's not going to knock you out. He's not going to hurt you. You know, there's very rare guys what can do that. Like John Doomsday Howard, he's another guy who can just knock you out from the first round to the fucking 5th round. This guy's got knockout power continuous. Now, last night, you saw how Travis Browne just faded. Like, the first round, the guy could have knocked him out. Second round, you're like, he's fading a bit here. Third round and fourth round, you're like, geez, I think if he caught him with his best shot, he wouldn't knock Werdum out now, you know? And he did catch him with a few good shots, and Werdum just stood there laughing. So that was my point being made, though. It's like, he just seems so much more willing to take a shot now. And he just seems to enjoy it. He seems to lap it up. He seems to, you know, feed off it in a way. And just gets him more aggressive. He, like, gets off on it. Yeah, you want to hit me, your artist? I can take it. I'm going to give you my artist now. See how you like it. And his combinations are beautiful. Like I say, I wasn't really questioning his striking. His striking always improved. Back from like 2007, his striking was improving. You know, but geez, just very impressed with him last night. It was the fighter he was facing too. Like, you know, Roy Nelson. You know, it's one thing outboxing Roy Nelson, staying on the outside, but going in against a big rangy guy and a heavy hitter who come at him, like Travis Browne come at him. Travis Browne went to bully that fight early on, and he didn't back down. Fabricio didn't back down. You know, he could have easily mentally broke, and Travis Browne could have just started grounding a pound, and that would have been it. You know, see you later, bye bye. You know, same old Werdum. You know, can't really take a shot. You know, breaks very easily, and that's something that changed in his game last night for me. He just changed his mentality, the way he approaches a fight when he's in there now. You know, and like I say, he's got the BJJ game. This guy can literally, he's dangerous. He just needs one attempt. That's it. It's one attempt. You give him one thing, that's it. It's a done deal. Now this guy can actually strike. And not only strike, he can take a strike and scrap with you. That's very dangerous. Now, the sad news for Fabricio is that he's actually facing Kane next. If he wasn't, damn, I feel sorry for his next opponent. But obviously, Kane's just a different animal altogether. But we did touch upon there about the 5th and final round. I noticed that you made a point last night on the Crypt, Greg. Now, Travis Browne seemed to come back to life in round 5. Could you tell us what your thoughts are on that?
Well, he did come back to life, and it was probably because Werdum started to just kind of stand off him a bit more as the fight finished. Which, again, like I said, was probably sensible in many ways because there was no reason for him to take a risk. But he gave Browne just that wee bit of time to recover. And Browne, he probably could have went harder. If Browne, obviously, he knew he was losing the fight, he should have really just thrown everything. Absolutely caution to the wind and just try and throw bombs from whatever angle he could throw them from. Because there's no point going out losing a unanimous decision or a knockout. So try and win. Too many fighters do that. They're happy just to see it to the fifth bell. What's the point in that? Just go out there and win the fight. Try and win the fight. If you get knocked out, it makes no difference. But, yeah, the fifth round was a bit of a shitty round, but it takes nothing away from Werdum's performance, really, though.
Well, we're talking all about Werdum here. Let's get your thoughts on Werdum, Brian. What did you make of Werdum's performance last night?
No, it was damn near brilliant. I mean, it was a perfect fight for him. And I've never been a Werdum fan. I think I kind of went sour on him when he bitch slapped Arlovsky in a real fight. I mean, I don't know if you guys have seen the GIF, but there's a pretty famous GIF of him just open hand slapping Arlovsky. That's like, really? You're an MMA fighter and you just fucking bitch slapped him? Come on. I don't know if you guys have seen it. If not, I'll have to get it posted on the crypt again.
The Brazilians do that a lot, weirdly enough. But I've noticed that from some Brazilians.
So that was a long time ago. And then I don't think he got cut by the UFC. I think he just didn't get re-signed. It seems like I remember with the Junior fight after he got beautiful KO from Junior, he was asking for the world. He was asking for a lot of money, and the UFC just kind of laughed. And so I don't know if he was technically cut or just not re-signed. So I don't know the details of that. And against Overeem, I actually almost had him winning that fight. I'd like to see the fight landing numbers, the stats of that, because I remember, the fucking Strikeforce is such a horrible crew. For the first 2 rounds, they were completely sucking Overeem's cock. I'm screaming. I'm like, Werdum's doing just as good a stand-up as Overeem is. I mean, yeah, he did the butt scoot, which loses you like 3 points per round because it's fucking gay. But even when he was standing, it wasn't great strikes, but Overeem kind of was afraid of that too. So I doubt if there's fight numbers for that Overeem fight, but I don't think Overeem dominated him standing at all in that fight. It was just a fucking ugly fight. But he did great. I mean, he kind of won me over. He's a fun guy to watch, and he's kind of entertaining. He's a legit big heavyweight. He kind of reminds me of Gonzaga. Is just a big guy that can break your arm off, and he's very talented. He's coming along at the right time. He seems to have all his kind of ducks in the row, and I think it makes for the Kane fight a very, very interesting fight. That should be good, and I'd be worried if I was a Kane fan because Kane coming off a layoff has not been best in his career. So we shall see. It'll be fun to watch.
Well, with that, let's move on to our fifth and final round. Prediction contest 1, 2, 5 for last night's UFC on Fox Werdum vs Browne event. Now, this is the first time we're going to be covering the prediction contest, but hopefully we can make it a regular occurrence. So in first place, we had Blue Nose Greg, which is actually Greg Marshall, who's joined us today. He was on 93 points. Yeah, 93 points there, Greg. Congratulations.
Thank you.
So you were in front of Freddie Machete in second place, who had 76 points. Now, this is a new guy at the Crypt. He's doing pretty good. He come in late last season, I believe. He had a few events, but he's been tearing shit up this season, to be honest, so he's doing pretty good. We had your good friend there from Wales, Hyde Muck, on 69 points. And finally, last but not least, Adrian Valencia in 11th place with 32 points. Welcome to MMA Crypt as well, Adrian, as your first prediction contest. Unlucky on that one, but hopefully you can improve on the next one. The way the prediction contest works, you get 4 points for picking a correct fighter. You get 3 points for a correct round and 3 points for a correct finish. We actually have a season going at the minute. We're 3 events into the season currently. Sitting at first place in this season is Blue Nose Greg. Well done there, Greg. You've actually took first place now. Aaron was leading for the first 2 weeks, so I believe.
Aaron won the first 2 contests.
Yeah, geez, and you just overtook him. You must have placed pretty high in the last 2 then, Greg. Let's have a look where you placed.
I placed 3rd in the second one, I think.
Yeah, you finished 11th in the first one. Keeping that one quiet there, Greg.
Yeah, keep that really quiet.
So the way things stand in the season standings, we have Blue Nose Greg in first place, we have Freddie Machete in second, and in third place we have Aaron P95. Fourth place we have Big Dog 04, and in fifth place we have T Daddy. Now we have Freddie Machete. He's only 3 points behind you there, Greg. That's just picking one fighter correctly. So he's right on your tail there. Is there anything you want to say to Freddie Machete while you have the chance there, Greg?
Yeah, enjoy being in second. No, man. The new guy in the site, and he's done a few of the contests, and he's obviously knows what he's doing, because he's placed pretty well in every contest, I think, so far. And sitting second in the season, obviously somebody who's got a chance of winning it.
Yeah, he's really come on and done good. Obviously, Aaron's not going to be impressed. Is there anything you want to say to Aaron about taking him from first spot last night?
Oh, yeah. Enjoy it. Enjoy looking up. Because you've had your time at the top, boyo. To be fair, the 2 events Aaron won were really hard. One of them, can't remember what the first event was. What was it now? It was the Nogueira Nelson event. That was a tough fucking event to pick. Like you say, I finished 11th and Aaron won it easy. So yeah.
I'm looking at Muck here. How the fuck's Muck placed number 10? The guy finished 3rd in the first event, and he's finished, 3rd last night? How is he ranked?
He missed the second event.
Oh, that's what it is.
He screwed up by missing it. Even if he'd scored 40 points, he'd be sitting about 5th place. So if he'd made the second event, he probably would have been sitting about 5th.
Well, we've got 4 players yet to break the 100 mark. We have Mushin on 56 points. We have Mr. Matt Field on 38 points, and we have Adrian Valencia, obviously a new member, on 32 points. But still, he overtook Sugar Pooper on 31 points. Sugar needs to get on and get in some contest by the looks of things here.
Yeah, and the one I'd like to mention is the season 3 winner, season 2 winner, sorry, Kick-Ass. He's sitting in a pathetic 9th place just now on 128 points. He's 61 points behind the first place at the moment. Which will be me, of course. But yeah, he needs to start picking some winners pretty quickly, or he's going to have a 3rd season of mediocrity.
Well, we can't forget about Derek Love. He won season 1 and finished 2nd place in season 2, so we've got to keep our eyes out for Derek. He's currently in 7th place, not doing as well, but he's still in with a shout out there. He's 48 points behind you there, Greg. So you happy with that?
He's an event behind me. Just to put it into context.
Okay, I think that's a wrap for today's show. Once again, thanks for joining me today, guys. And from MMA Crips Fighting Talk, thank you for watching.